Let me tell you something about success. Most people get it wrong. They think it's all about some grand moment of transformation. They believe it's about hitting the jackpot, finding the golden ticket, making that one lucky move that changes everything. But here's the truth. Success doesn't come from a single breakthrough or some overnight miracle. It comes from small, consistent improvements day after day. It's a steady drip of effort, the quiet commitment to progress when nobody's watching. You see, the key to real, lasting success isn't found in sudden leaps. It's built on the compounding effect of daily progress. Just a little bit better each day. Imagine that. Just 1% better every day. It sounds almost too small to matter, doesn't it? But here's the secret. It's not the size of the improvement that matters. It's the consistency of it. Because over time, that 1% adds up. And it doesn't just add up, it multiplies. You stay with it, you stay disciplined, you stay focused, and before you know it, you're achieving results that most people can't even comprehend. The problem: most people underestimate the power of small changes. They're looking for the big score, the massive transformation, the overnight success. They look at the winners of the world and think they got there because of talent, intelligence, or some magical advantage. But they've got it all wrong. Success is built on the tiny decisions, the little choices made in those quiet moments when nobody's watching. It's about staying consistent when it's hard, when it's boring, when the results aren't visible yet. That's what separates the successful from the average. That commitment to just getting a little better every single day. Now let's put it in perspective. If you commit to improving by just 1% every day, by the end of the year, you're not just 365% better. No, because of the power of compounding, you'll be over 37 times better than when you started. Think about that. That's the difference between staying stuck and becoming absolutely unstoppable. But here's why most people never experience that kind of transformation. They quit too soon. They give up before they let compounding work its magic. They expect results overnight, and when they don't see them, they throw in the towel. They start a new habit, miss a few days, and decide it's just not worth it. They take a step forward, but when progress feels slow, they lose motivation and fall back into their old ways. But successful people, they think differently. They know real change takes time. They don't aim for perfection. They're not trying to be 100% better in a single day. They commit to small, steady improvements, understanding that progress builds on itself. They trust the process. They show up every single day. They do the work even when it feels like nothing's happening, because they know something most people don't. Results always come to those who stay consistent. It's not about massive leaps. It's about mastering the little things. The small habits, the minor improvements, the seemingly insignificant details that most people overlook. But those details, when stacked consistently over time, create a force that's unstoppable. Now, the question is, how do you do it? How do you stay committed to getting just 1% better every day? How do you keep moving forward when the results aren't immediate? How do you build a system that guarantees progress, no matter how small, every single day? You've got to have a system. You've got to build habits that make progress automatic. You've got to simplify your focus, clear the clutter, and build momentum one small step at a time. And most of all, you've got to stay disciplined enough to do the work, even when the results aren't obvious. Because here's the truth. Improvement by 1% every day isn't just a strategy. It's a mindset. It's a way of life. It's a philosophy that, when committed to, changes everything. The only question is, are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to show up every day, to make the small improvements, to stay consistent, even when the progress feels slow? Because if you are, then success is inevitable. Not a possibility. Not a hope. A certainty. Let me tell you something about improvement. It's all about consistency. That's the magic word. Not intensity. Not perfection. not some burst of motivation that makes you feel unstoppable for a day or two. It's about doing the right things, the simple things, day after day, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Because small improvements only work if you repeat them over time. One big push doesn't create transformation, but daily effort. That's where the magic happens. That's what compounds. That's what creates real, lasting change. Now, here's where most people go wrong. They start strong, but they fade quickly. They get excited about changing their lives, but when the results don't come fast enough, they lose motivation. They wait for inspiration instead of building discipline. And that's the trap. They try to move mountains in a day and give up when it doesn't happen. They want instant results. And when they don't get them, they quit. But you can't quit, not if you're serious about success. If you want to become truly unstoppable, you've got to make consistency non-negotiable. It can't be something you do only when you feel like it. It has to be something you do because it's part of who you are. Like brushing your teeth or tying your shoes, it's a habit, it's automatic. You don't negotiate with yourself about it. You don't question it. You just do it. The first step to mastering consistency is killing the idea of perfection. That's the first thing you throw out the window, because most people fail before they even start. They set impossible standards for themselves. They say, if I can't do something perfectly, I won't do it at all. They think if I don't have a full hour to work out, I won't work out at all. If I don't have time to read an entire chapter, I won't read at all. That's all or nothing thinking. And it's the fastest way to stay stuck. But the winners, they don't fall for that trap. They understand something most people never do. Something is always better than nothing. If they can't do an hour, they do 10 minutes. If they can't do 10 minutes, they do 2. Because it's not about the intensity. It's about the repetition. It's about showing up. It's about stacking those little wins day after day. And that's how progress builds, slowly, consistently, relentlessly. And here's the next piece of the puzzle. Build systems, not just motivation. Because motivation is a fraud. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Some days you'll feel inspired, ready to charge through the world. Other days you won't even feel like getting out of bed. And if you only act when you feel good, you'll never be consistent. The key is to build systems that make taking action automatic. Systems that eliminate willpower from the equation. Systems that make it easier to do the right thing than to avoid it. It's like this. If you want to improve your fitness, you don't wait until you feel like working out. You schedule your workouts at the same time every day, like clockwork. If you want to become a better reader, you commit to reading at a specific time, even if it's just 5 minutes. If you want to develop a skill, you dedicate a small window of time each day to practice. And you don't leave it to chance. You make it part of your life. The more structured your habits, the less effort it takes to stay consistent. Now, let me give you something to think about. The greats, the legends, the ones who seem to operate on a different level. They didn't get there by accident. They built systems that worked for them. They found ways to keep themselves on track when motivation ran dry. They mastered the art of consistency by eliminating excuses before they even came up. And that's what you have to do. Because here's the truth. Consistency beats intensity every time. It's not about doing something extraordinary once in a while. It's about doing the ordinary things with extraordinary commitment. It's about showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. Especially when you don't feel like it. You want to make real progress. You want to become unrecognizable from the person you are today. Then you've got to make consistency your standard. No more waiting for the perfect moment. No more relying on inspiration. No more falling into the trap of all or nothing thinking. From this moment forward, you show up. You do the work, and you keep doing it day after day. Because when you master consistency, everything else falls into place. And once you have that foundation, success becomes inevitable. Now, let's talk about progress, because progress builds confidence. And confidence, that's fuel for everything. When you see improvement, even the smallest bit, it ignites your motivation. It proves you're moving in the right direction. But most people, they never see their progress because they don't track it. They overlook the small wins, dismissing them as insignificant. And when they don't see results fast enough, they assume they're not improving. They get frustrated, and frustration leads to quitting. Successful people, they do something different. They track their habits. They keep it simple. Nothing fancy. A notebook, a calendar, a checklist. Just something that makes their progress visible. When they work out, they mark it down. When they practice a skill, they record it. They build a streak, and when they see that streak growing, it motivates them to keep going. That's how you turn improvement into a game. And when progress becomes rewarding, quitting starts to feel like a loss. That's the power of tracking your progress. It makes consistency feel like winning. Now, the next step is critical. Removing obstacles to consistency. Because the truth is, most people make consistency harder than it needs to be. They rely on willpower instead of designing an environment that supports their habits. And here's the thing. Your environment shapes your behavior more than you realize. If your phone is packed with distractions, you'll struggle to focus. If your kitchen is full of junk food, you'll struggle to eat healthy. If your workspace is cluttered, you'll struggle to stay productive. It's not always about motivation, it's about making good habits the easiest option. You see, successful people design their environment to make success automatic. If they want to read more, they leave books where they can see them. If they want to work out, they lay out their workout clothes the night before. If they want to eat healthier, they eliminate the temptations before they even become an issue. They don't rely on willpower. They set themselves up to win before the day even begins. And that's how they keep showing up day after day, whether they feel like it or not. Now, here's the next piece of the puzzle. Identity-based decisions. And this is where most people go wrong. They try to build habits by focusing on what they want to do. They say, I want to eat healthier. I want to wake up early. I want to be more disciplined. But the problem is they're focused on the action, not the identity. They're trying to force themselves to act in a way that doesn't align with who they believe they are. And that's a battle you can't win. You see, successful people don't just adopt new habits. They adopt a new identity. They don't say, I want to work out. They say, I'm the type of person who never misses a workout. They don't say, I want to read more. They say, I'm the type of person who never goes a day without learning something new. They don't say, I want to be productive. They say, I'm the type of person who makes every hour count. And that's the difference. When you shift your identity, consistency becomes natural. You don't have to push yourself to act. You do it because it's who you are. The action follows the identity, not the other way around. And when you act in alignment with that identity, those small improvements happen automatically. Now ask yourself, am I trying to change my actions, or am I changing my identity? Am I relying on motivation, or am I building systems that make progress inevitable? Am I letting perfection stop me, or am I choosing progress over excuses? Because once you master consistency, you unlock the power of small improvements. And when you commit to improving by just 1% every single day, nothing will be able to stop you. And I mean nothing. Now let me tell you something about momentum. It's one of the most powerful forces you can harness, and it all starts with stacking small wins. Progress is built on momentum. And momentum, that's the real secret to improvement. Because when you start creating small victories, it builds confidence. It reinforces the belief that you're moving forward. And the more small wins you collect, the easier it becomes to keep improving. It's like pushing a heavy wagon. At first it barely moves. But once it starts rolling, it picks up speed. And suddenly you're moving faster than you ever thought possible. The problem most people have is they overlook the power of small wins. They think success comes from some big breakthrough, a single defining moment. They believe they need massive results before they can feel like they're making progress. But that's the wrong mindset. The truth is, the biggest accomplishments in history, they were all built on a foundation of tiny victories, small, consistent steps that compounded over time. That's how it's always been done. The first step to stacking small wins is focusing on progress, not perfection. Because perfection, that's a trap. It keeps people stuck, paralyzed. It makes them afraid to take action. It creates unrealistic expectations that lead to nothing but frustration. But progress is different. Progress is about moving forward no matter how small the step. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be better than yesterday. And that's something you can do. That's something you can control. Here's how it works. If you commit to doing one more push-up than yesterday, that's a win. If you read one more page than you did the day before, that's a win. If you wake up just 5 minutes earlier, that's a win. These little improvements might seem insignificant, but when stacked day after day, they create a force that's impossible to stop. The trick is to keep stacking those wins, no matter how small. Because every win is a piece of momentum. And momentum is the real difference maker. The next step is setting micro goals that lead to bigger achievements. Most people, they set huge, intimidating goals and then do nothing. They look at the big picture and feel overwhelmed. They see how far they have to go and lose all motivation before they even start. They get stuck in thinking about the mountain instead of focusing on the step right in front of them. And because of that, they end up doing nothing at all. But successful people, they think differently. They don't just set big goals. They break them down into tiny, winnable actions. They don't get overwhelmed by the size of the dream. They start small. If their goal is to read 50 books a year, they don't focus on 50 books. They focus on reading a few pages every day. If their goal is to build a business, they don't try to do everything at once. They focus on completing one small task at a time. If their goal is to improve their fitness, they don't aim for perfection. They just make healthier choices, day after day. They understand something most people never do. Massive results come from tiny, repeated efforts. It's not about trying to change everything overnight. It's about winning each day. It's about doing the little things right over and over until they add up to something monumental. So the question is, are you stacking your wins? Are you breaking down your goals into small, winnable pieces? Are you measuring progress instead of perfection? Because that's how the real achievers do it. They don't just chase the big win. They collect the small wins. They build momentum. And once you have momentum, you become unstoppable. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be moving. Every day. Every moment. Just a little bit better than yesterday. Because once you master the art of stacking small wins, success is no longer a possibility. It's inevitable. Now, let's talk about something most people completely overlook. Celebrating small wins. Because here's the truth. The human brain is wired for reward. When you recognize your wins, your brain releases dopamine. And dopamine, that's what drives motivation. It strengthens your habits. It reinforces progress. But here's the problem. Most people ignore their progress. They only celebrate the big milestones, the grand achievements. And because those milestones take time to reach, they feel like they're not making progress at all. They feel stuck. But successful people, they understand the power of acknowledging every win. They make it a habit. They track their workouts and celebrate improvements no matter how small. They keep a journal of daily progress even if it's just a single sentence about what they did well. They give themselves credit for showing up, for following through, for keeping their word. And because they recognize their progress, they stay motivated. They stay hungry. They stay consistent. You see, success isn't just about the big wins. It's about the little wins you stack along the way. Because every small win is proof that you're moving forward. And when you recognize that progress, you build momentum. And momentum. That's the difference between winning and staying stuck. Now, the next step is compounding your wins by staying consistent. Success is built like a staircase. Each step builds on the one before it. You improve by just 1% every day, and those improvements multiply. It's like compound interest. You invest a little every day, and over time, the growth becomes exponential. The problem most people have is they quit before they let momentum build. They stop before the real effects of compounding kick in. They expect results too fast, and when they don't see them, they throw in the towel. But here's the thing. The first few days might feel slow. They might feel like nothing's happening. But the longer you stay consistent, the faster progress accelerates. The small wins start to add up. They turn into bigger wins. And before you know it, the results are undeniable. Consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. But to stay consistent, you have to recognize the progress you're making. You have to acknowledge the wins, no matter how small. You have to keep stacking them day after day. That's how you build something unstoppable. And here's the next piece. The identity shift. Because success isn't just something you achieve, it's something you become. Most people see success as a destination, a prize, something they'll get if everything goes right. But the most successful people, they see success as a part of who they are. They don't just aim for improvement. They embody it. They don't just chase goals. They become the type of person who naturally wins every day. If you want to improve by 1% every day, you've got to change the way you see yourself. Instead of saying, I want to be productive, say, I am the type of person who takes action every day. Instead of saying, I want to be disciplined, say, I am someone who follows through no matter what. Instead of saying, I hope I get better, say, I improve every single day. Because here's the reality. Your actions will always align with your identity. If you see yourself as someone who always wins, you'll find ways to win, even when things get hard. If you see yourself as someone who improves every day, you'll naturally seek ways to get better. Your habits will follow your self-image. That's how you become the kind of person who wins by default. Now, ask yourself, are you waiting for big wins, or are you stacking small wins every day? Are you aiming for perfection, or are you focused on progress? Are you tracking and celebrating your success, or are you ignoring the progress you've already made? Because once you commit to those small daily wins, success doesn't just become possible. It becomes inevitable. Let me tell you something about building an unstoppable mindset. Because growth isn't just about action. It's about how you think. It's about how you see yourself. It's about how you handle the challenges, push through the resistance, and keep moving forward when everything inside you says to quit. And if your mind isn't prepared for the journey, you'll break before you ever reach your destination. Most people sabotage their progress before they even get started. Why? Because they haven't trained their mind to support their success. They let fear, doubt, and hesitation take control. They start strong, but the moment things get tough, the stories in their head start talking. This is too hard. I'm not good enough. Maybe this just isn't for me. And just like that, they quit. They break their streak, they lose their momentum, and they fall right back into their old patterns. But successful people, they think differently. They don't wait for things to be easy. They don't wait until they feel confident. They don't let temporary emotions dictate their long-term success. They build a mindset so strong, so unshakable, that no setback, no challenge, no failure can stop them. The next step to developing that kind of mindset is rewriting your self-image. Because most people see themselves as limited. They tell themselves stories about why they can't succeed. They say, I'm not disciplined. I've never been good at this. I'm just not that kind of person. And because they believe these things, they act in ways that reinforce them. But if you want to improve by 1% every day, you've got to upgrade your identity. You've got to start telling yourself a new story. Instead of saying, I struggle with consistency, you say, I'm the kind of person who shows up every day. Instead of saying, I've never been confident, you say, I'm becoming more confident every day. Instead of saying, I'm not disciplined, you say, I am committed to my growth. And here's the truth. Your mind will believe whatever you tell it most often. If you keep telling yourself you're weak, you will act weak. If you keep telling yourself you're strong, you will act strong. If you keep telling yourself you're unstoppable, you will find a way to push through every challenge. That's how you build an unbreakable mindset. The next step is developing mental resilience, the ability to keep moving forward no matter what. Most people quit too soon. The moment they face resistance, they stop. They tell themselves, this isn't working. They give up before the real work even begins. But success isn't about never facing resistance. It's about pushing through it. It's about using the resistance to build strength. Think of it like lifting weights. First few reps are easy. But when you start feeling the burn, that's when growth happens. That's when the muscle builds. And if you quit when it gets uncomfortable, you never build strength. It's the same with life. The moment things get difficult, that's when you have to push forward. That's when mental toughness is built. That's when you separate yourself from the crowd. The next step is turning obstacles into fuel. Most people see problems as roadblocks. They think if things were easier, I would be successful. But successful people see obstacles as tools for growth. They look at every challenge and ask, how can this make me stronger? If they fail, they analyze it. They learn. They get better. If they experience rejection, they use it to sharpen their skills. If something goes wrong, they see it as a lesson, not a reason to quit. They understand that struggle is not a sign to give up. It's a sign they're growing. And that's the difference. The next step is building emotional control. Because most people let their emotions dictate their actions. If they feel motivated, they work hard. If they feel tired, they make excuses. If they feel discouraged, they stop. But successful people don't let emotions control them. They act regardless of how they feel. They understand that motivation comes and goes, but commitment is what matters. They train themselves to push forward, whether they feel like it or not. They detach from emotions and focus on the mission. And because they act consistently, their emotions start following their actions instead of the other way around. Now, here's the next piece. Conditioning your mind for long-term success. Because success is not a short-term game. It's not about quick results. It's about having the ability to keep improving for years. And most people never experience that kind of growth because they stop when they feel comfortable. They make a little progress and think, that's enough. But the winners, they never stop pushing. They never stop growing. They never settle. They keep looking for ways to get 1% better, even when they're already winning. That's the difference between those who succeed once and those who keep succeeding. The greatest athletes, leaders, and entrepreneurs in history didn't stop improving when they reached success. They pushed even harder. They understood that the moment you stop growing is the moment you start declining. So ask yourself, am I thinking like someone who improves every day? Am I making excuses or pushing through resistance? Am I using challenges to grow, or am I letting them hold me back? Because once you develop an unstoppable mindset, nothing can keep you from improving by 1% every day. And when you commit to that level of growth, success isn't just possible, it's inevitable.